All Pokemon mentioned in this video all belong to Nintendo. Also, viewer discretion for children under 12.
Howdy, it's GrowVG, and in this video I'm going to be discussing Pokemon breeding. It's a wonderful thing, and this is why I say, children, if you're under 12, please ask your parents before you watch this video. Because while I will not be using any adult terms, I see this as a very adult topic, and it might also be a little complicated for a little bit, so yeah. But in any case, Pokemon breeding. It's a thing. There are male and female Pokemon. It might as well be a thing. Essentially what it is when you put two Pokemon in what is known as the Pokemon daycare, they have a chance to make an egg. Now, obviously, it's not as clear-cut as that. There are several different requirements. Obviously, you have to have a male and a female Pokemon, and if they're not of the same species, they have to be in the same egg group, at least. Now, you're probably wondering, what in the world is an egg group? Well, they're essentially just the groups in which certain Pokemon can and cannot breed with. If two Pokemon are in the same group, they can breed, most of the time. Obviously, there are a couple of exceptions, like some genderless Pokemon, namely legendaries. All baby Pokemon cannot breed at all, and there are some other genderless Pokemon that aren't legendary that cannot breed. Though, I will say that some legendaries can breed. If I'm not mistaken, Manaphy and Rotom are the two exceptions. But, in any case, as for egg groups, there are several different egg groups. I will not discuss them all in this video, but I might put them down in the description below. But anyway, along with the requirements of, obviously, a male and female Pokemon, there are a couple other things to take into consideration when breeding. Obviously, I don't quite know why, but the two natures of the two parent Pokemon are a big thing. If the two Pokemon have, like, I don't know. Also, it helps to have a parent who is not a Pokemon you originally caught, like a Pokemon that you got from, like, Wonder Trade or whatever. But yeah, it also helps to have a Pokemon that came from somewhere else. Now, if you are not familiar with the Pokemon daycare itself, it is essentially a building in the game. It looks kind of like a house. Typically, there is a fence, and there is a man who stands outside. For this video, I will be discussing Pokemon Alpha Sapphire's daycare. On Route 117. There's an old man who stands outside. Depending on the Pokemon you put in the daycare, there are a number of things that he can say that relate to their compatibility. And no matter what he says, it all relates, it's all on how much they play together. If the Pokemon play together fairly often, then their compatibility is pretty high, and so are the chances of you getting an egg quickly. However, if he says that they prefer to play with other Pokemon rather than themselves, there's no compatibility whatsoever. Now, obviously, if the Pokemon don't really like each other but still play together, there is still a chance that they'll make an egg. It's just, it takes a little bit longer. And when the egg finally does appear, the old man, instead of facing toward the daycare, he will face out toward the road. Alright. Now to tackle things that the parents can pass down to the baby Pokemon. Now for this, I will be using the example of a female Lucario and a male Blaziken. Lucario is in the human-like egg group and the field egg group, while Blaziken is only in the field egg group. Already they're compatible because they are in the same egg group. Chances are even more increased if their natures are compatible, I guess, and if either of them are from another trainer. For my example, and this is actually what's going on in my copy of Alpha Sapphire, actually, the Blaziken came from another trainer, while the Lucario I already had. So, with Pokemon breeding, it should be known that no matter, whatever the mother Pokemon is, the baby is always going to be the lowest form in the evolutionary line. For example, for the Lucario and Blaziken couple, the baby is always going to be a Riolu, since the mother is the Lucario. The mother can also pass down the Pokeball that she was caught in to her child. While that's all good and stuff, the father, the Blaziken, can pass down a number of things, I do believe. Now, this is where it kind of gets complicated, and this is kind of where people kind of go crazy over this, because with Pokemon breeding, and Pokemon in general, Pokemon have these IVs. I can't recall exactly what they stand for, but the father, I do believe, can pass down IVs to the child. He can also pass down moves. Like, say, for example, this Blaziken knows Bulk Up. He could pass that down to the baby Riolu. These moves are called egg moves, and again, this is where it gets complicated, so find another video on YouTube that kind of explains it better. I don't know. I'm just here for cute baby Pokemon. Speaking of which, there are also some requirements for what Pokemon you get from the egg. Some baby Pokemon, like Riolu, don't require anything, but for other baby Pokemon, say like Pichu or Badoo, one of the parents needs to hold an item for that baby Pokemon to hatch. For example, with Pichu, the mother, I guess, would have to be a Pikachu, and they would have to be holding a light ball for the baby Pokemon to be a Pichu. Or, if you were trying to get a Badoo, one of the parents would have to hold a rose incense, I do believe. I'm not entirely sure. But, yes. Some baby Pokemon require no items, some do. Again, that's kind of complicated, and I can't remember that exactly off the top of my head. When you do get the egg, there is a certain amount of steps called an egg cycle that it takes for it to hatch. Now, you can speed this up by riding a bike or having a Pokemon in your team that knows the ability Magma Armor or Flame Body. But, yes, that's just a way of speeding it up. And I should also go ahead and say this. If you don't quite know breeding stuff, you can always take the cheap route and use a Ditto. Now, obviously, Ditto's kind of a joke in the Pokemon fandom, because it can pretty much breed with anything. But there are certain Pokemon that it can't. Obviously, legendaries and baby Pokemon and other Pokemon that just can't breed whatsoever. But the funny thing is, you can't breed a Ditto either. Yeah, you put two Ditto in the daycare, they're not going to make a baby Ditto. So, that kind of begs the question, where exactly did it come from? But maybe that for another time. So, yeah, that was the basics of Pokemon breeding. So, see you later, guys!